You just did something spectacular. You hit play on Terravive Pittsburgh to get your front row seat to Pittsburgh's tech and innovation ecosystem. I'm your host, Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and I've been telling the stories across Pittsburgh's tech industry for longer than you would ever friggin' know. So what if you could turn off the tap of single-use plastic while simultaneously building a thriving business that supports local communities? Well, today we're diving into the extraordinary journey of Terravive with founder and CEO Juliana Keeling and Joe Swider. In this episode, you will discover 3 game-changing insights. First, how to build a business-first approach. You can learn why Juliana, who started with zero business knowledge while in college, emphasizes building a strong business foundation before falling in love with your product idea. And she talks about how accelerator programs can be your secret weapon. Number 2, the power of the triple threat. Discover how being a woman, minority, and veteran-owned company isn't just about checking boxes. It's about bringing unique perspectives that drive innovation and sustainable manufacturing. And 3, scaling with purpose. Find out how Terravive grew from a college startup to operating across 16 contract manufacturing facilities and 3 warehouses, all while staying true to their environmental mission. Terravive's story is compelling because it proves that you don't need a business background to build something transformative. Juliana started as a chemistry student from a family of doctors, armed with knowledge of biomaterials, but no business experience. But today, she's leading a company that's revolutionizing how we think about packaging and sustainability. This conversation reveals the scars, the wins, and the wisdom gained from 11 years of building business that matters. Let's jump into the conversation with Juliana and Joe right now. Great to have you guys here in the Huntington Bank studios. I always say it, the best conversations happen right here because I'm hanging out with people that are building really cool stuff. And you guys are no exception to that rule. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It is truly a pleasure.
We always start with introductions so our listener knows who's who and what's what. Juliana, let's start with you.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for having us. And thanks to Huntington for sponsoring and supporting.
We love it.
My name's Juliana Keeling. I'm the founder and CEO of Terravive. Started the business about 11 years ago and have grown it. We're now at about 16 different contract manufacturing facilities and 3 warehouses. We're on a mission to turn off the tap of single-use plastic, support local communities, and we're proud to say that we're a woman, minority, and veteran-owned company.
You're the official triple threat.
Exactly.
In Pittsburgh's thing. So yeah.
I agree.
I love that. And then Joe, what do you do all day long besides annoying her all day?
Oh, yeah. Well, someone has to keep her in line.
I know, exactly.
You're not wrong.
Hi, I'm Joe Swider. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and co-owner with Juliana. Originally from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Lifelong Steelers fan. And, when I grew up in Oakdale, and then I went to Canevin. I was in the military. I was in the Navy. Went out, started a couple companies, and then bumped into Juliana about 6 years ago. Saw the potential, and we just haven't looked back.
I love it.
We've just skyrocketed ever since.
Yeah, well, give us the overview of all that you guys do because I'm just a huge fan. God bless plastic and its wonderfulness and what it does for the world, but also I hate seeing plastic just being tossed when it doesn't have to be tossed.
Yep.
Now, you can make throwaway single-use stuff out of entirely compostable, recyclable materials, right?
Absolutely.
Am I getting close to this?
You are.
Okay,
You
okay,
are.
good.
And what Terravive is here to do is to turn off the tap of single-use plastic and improve the health and well-being of people in the environment, but on a larger scale, in a way that is not going to sacrifice the convenience and our lifestyle of single-use plastic.
Yeah.
So, polyethylene-based plastics, your LDPEs, HDPEs, your traditional single-use plastics, they were a great material, but we should think about it in the way that Thomas Edison produced his first light bulb. The first light bulb, produced fluorescent light. It worked, but we are now at the point of LEDs.
I like that very much.
Terravive is all about bringing LEDs to the marketplace. From a material perspective, we've come such a long way. And so Terravive is producing the highest quality compostable materials and, providing them in a single-use format, like clamshells, bowls, plates, cutlery, to-go containers, things of that nature, but made out of fully compostable materials so that when you use them, you can really feel guilt-free.
I want to feel more guilt-free because sometimes you go out and you get something to eat and you pick something up and you're like, well, I have no choice.
Exactly.
At least we don't see as much styrofoam as we once did. I mean, that used to be the thing. And when you do see that in this day and age, like, what, are you trying to kill me and the planet?
We agree. Have you ever heard of the statistic that every single piece of plastic that's ever been created on the earth today
Still here, right?
is still here? So think about every single plastic that you've used, that I've used, that Joe's used, that everybody around the world has used, that our grandparents have used.
Yeah.
It's still here in some form.
Oh, that's crazy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And by 2040, there will be more plastics than fish in the ocean by weight.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's really a pervasive, huge problem.
It is.
But we have a solution.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that solution. Before we jump into that, though,
Yes.
I got to know, like, what inspired you to actually start this? I'm always impressed when people start something, because that's a big lift. I feel like somebody with your background, your intelligence, your know-how, I mean, you could work pretty much any place you want to, but you decide, like, I'm doing something for yourself, to do something that on your own terms, which I think is always impressive. And you've been doing this for 11 years now, which means like you're doing something right? I mean, come on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We've been really fortunate to have a ton of success ever since the business has been started. But, really for a couple different reasons. Joe knows I've shared this before, but I've always been extremely passionate about sustainability.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, I was working on research that was utilizing these types of materials that could look and perform like a single-use plastic, but break down like an orange peel.
Okay.
And so basically, we took that research out of the lab and then brought it into the market.
Where were you studying that technology?
So I had really been working on this since I was in high school. So even when I went to a math and science specialty center in high school and then was working at the local university and then got a full ride merit scholarship to Washington and Lee University.
Very
where
cool.
they gave me research funds specifically to continue this research. And then at that point, between my first and second year, I used some of those research funds to go to San Francisco, where I learned how do you take a kernel of an idea, make that something larger. And then the other piece of it that I saw and that really had bothered me at the time was that, others who were in this space they were simply importing all of these products. They were not actually making or manufacturing anything in the U.S.
Wow, so that's another green factor right there, the fact that you have to
Exactly.
ship that stuff across the ocean.
Those Scope 3 emissions.
So everything you do, you actually manufacture here in the States.
Exactly. We manufacture everything from the raw material production all the way to the finished good we manufacture in the United States. And we're the only one who's doing that. And we've been the only one who's been doing that for the last 11 years.
Across 100 products.
Across 100 different products.
Wow. 100 different products.
Good Lord, so you're talking forks, spoons,
Yes.
plates,
Everything.
dishes, like
Everything.
takeout bags, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
Wow.
Which is another piece of sustainability as well. There's the environmental side of it, but there's also supporting local communities.
Yeah.
Everything that we do should give back, just like how we do in the world of, the products. We believe that manufacturing is a great source of employment and is a great
100%.
source of,
Yeah.
economic strength for our country. And so we need a strong industrial base.
And you mentioned that you have you're manufacturing in 11 facilities?
16.
I'm sorry, 16. Why was I
Yes.
thinking 11? So 16 facilities. That's impressive.
Yes. It's critical for redundant capacity. A lot of people who, import from other countries have experienced the pain of the New Year's and, all these different holiday changes. And it really creates a huge issue. I can share some success stories that customers have had, switching over from these things, but it creates a huge pinch and pain point when they're not able to get products.
I'm 100% right.
What we have nailed is the ability to have a very secure, reliable supply chain by having multiple different locations that can produce the same product.
Amazing. So, Joe, I can understand why you were like, I'm joining this thing.
Oh, yeah.
I would too. I'd be like, wait a second, this is pretty cool stuff. You're like, hey, you ever thought about hiring a guy like me?
I was like, what are you doing over there?
How did you pull this off? This is amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like, so first off, what has you here in Pittsburgh? Joe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I thought he's like bringing it here. He's like, no, we're gonna be in Pittsburgh.
yeah. Well, no, I just think I lived through Pittsburgh during the high times, the low times, in the 80s, 90s, and then went away for the military. Started a bunch of companies down south, but over the years, the last 15 years, I was always tied into the tech community around here. Fortunately, I've known Audrey for a while, and some of the folks. And over the years, I've started or been part of some teams that have started some companies here, like Interface Materials, Noah Snyder.
Yeah, absolutely,
and
man.
the folks over at Implio, Brian Jun.
Yep.
And when we're looking at different expansion areas, we started the company down in Richmond, Virginia, and we were looking at different areas to expand. And so we said, let's give Pittsburgh a shot. It's a big enough city, and there's a ton of smart people up here, and let's put some R&D up here, which we have. And let's just expand from there.
I love it.
I also think there's a lot of untapped. There are a lot of cities throughout the U.S. that have gotten a ton of recognition with respect to talent, innovation, and overall capacity for growth. And I think there's that old Warren Buffett saying, be greedy where others are fearful and be fearful where others are greedy. Mm-hmm. And I view that from the same lens of where we spend our time. And I think that in Pittsburgh, there's a ton of extremely smart people, a ton of extremely hardworking people, and a long history of industrial success. And I look at it from that lens as well.
I like that. Yeah. First off, we're glad you're here in Pittsburgh doing what you're doing, and you're finding success so far. How long have you been in Pittsburgh for now?
About a little over a year.
Okay, fantastic. And so I'm just curious. I'm always like, I feel like you're like David going against the giant Goliath, because I'm assuming the industry that creates these one-time plastics, or even places that are doing compostable stuff that are like gigantic, based in China. So there's these big giants you're going up against. How do you kind of win against them? Because I know, obviously, with having 16 facilities pumping out your stuff, you're doing something.
One of the things about Joe and I is that we love the David and Goliath game because we win every single time.
I like hearing that. Keep talking, Juliana. Very cool.
We win, and we have been winning for the last 11 years.
That's amazing.
So we have figured out how to outmaneuver, how to beat the Goliaths. But at a larger macro level, it hasn't been that hard because we have consumer sentiment in our direction.
Interesting. That makes sense. I like that.
Yes, plastics consumption is going up, but that's a reflection of population increase.
100%.
Anybody who really thinks about it knows that they would rather use a compostable material that's not going to harm them long term, that's not going to be around when their great-great-great-grandkids are going to be around. Like, that is a disgusting thought.
Exactly.
I mean, truly, that's like, you want to leave, and ideally you want to leave, in a better place. You want to leave the earth a better place than what you found it. And, a mountain of trash is not the answer to that.
Exactly.
And so consumer sentiment knows that, consumer sentiment is driving the use of compostables. Made in USA is something that has been around since, this movement has been around. Actually, this is something that our founding fathers believed. And our founding fathers actually, put requirements in place when we were, dealing with the British to require the use of made in USA products.
There you go.
And it's just gone through different iterations.
Yeah.
But we're now coming back full circle.
I love it. I just think it's so cool making something here in the States that is environmentally friendly. There's a huge market and demand for it.
Absolutely.
I can see why you're growing so much. Who are some of your typical customers?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a couple, success stories of just some customers who have made some really smart decisions. But, we've had a couple different customers. I'll speak to the university side.
Okay.
We have a couple customers in Virginia. One's Virginia Tech. They've been an awesome customer. Another one is Washington and Lee University, also in Virginia.
All right, selling to your own people there. Yes. I like this. Okay.
They saw the value early on, and I think a lot of people had challenges during the COVID pandemic from the lens of they couldn't get their supply chain where they needed it to.
Right.
And in the food service business, you've got to get products on time. And so
the whole eating with your hands thing gets old after once or twice, right?
Especially when people are concerned about contamination, spreading germs.
just a little.
Yeah,
exactly.
So people did move to more single-use products, but they need to get those products on time and when they're expecting them. And so Virginia Tech and Washington and Lee were great supporters. They saw the value early on, and they adopted it immediately. We've also had others, like government buildings. The U.S. House of Representatives has been an awesome customer.
Oh my goodness! That's amazing.
Exactly.
I love hearing that. I'm sorry.
That's
a cool customer.
Capitol Hill and you're in the cafeterias there.
Exactly.
It's mostly our products.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. That's awesome.
Well, in the driver there was, prior to us coming along, almost all the products there were imported from China. So if you're a legislator and you're trying to support your constituents, say,
Yeah.
we want to bring jobs here, we want American manufacturing. Oh, by the way, you're going to be fed on products that are coming from China.
Exactly.
May or may not have PFAS on them.
Right.
The toxin. That's not a good look.
Not a good look.
They found us, and so that's why we're up there for.
That's
for
awesome.
that reason.
I love hearing that. That's like, okay, yeah, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering myself, I can understand why you're growing as fast as you're growing because of obviously there's this need, there's this demand, but I still go back to how you've been able to outsmart the big players. I want to figure out like, how can we get more people like in Pittsburgh, more companies in Pittsburgh to like make sure they're buying local? Right? Because I think a lot of times people like they might have an order or something and they're like, yeah, it's like they don't want to disrupt something. They may not understand. I don't know. I just feel like there's a way that we can get companies like yours more traction locally. What are your thoughts on how we can convince people to be using locally made products?
It's a great question.
Especially your product, because you're here right now. I'm like, hey, I'm going to see you guys like in some major restaurants of certain types.
Absolutely.
They might have smiley cookies and stuff. Just saying. So yeah.
Or French fries.
Exactly. Yeah. Just saying. Just think aloud.
Just thinking out loud. I mean, we would not object to that.
Yeah.
You know, our fiber-based products, they hold up oil and grease really, really nicely.
Yeah,
so,
you get perfect.
it's perfect. And those Sprouted cookies sure look great with, against the background of the products. Would you like to?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of it, Jonathan's about just make sure that they're aware of us and then aware of the story. We have some clients that wrap a whole marketing campaign about the Terravive story.
Yeah.
And literally, it's Juliana starting the business 11 years ago.
Okay.
We survived COVID. We've expanded now to 16 plants. It's woman, minority, veteran-owned. We're all about American manufacturing. We're David and Goliath. And, a lot of folks just wrap a marketing story around it.
I like that.
And as a guy originally from Pittsburgh, folks in Pittsburgh used to take pride in buying American-made products. I don't see as many as there used to be, but
either, and that's why I want to talk about this because it's something that the Tech Council's been talking about this literally for as long as I've been here, which is longer than you ever want to know. Okay, but seriously, it's the whole. We've actually had some old school entrepreneurs back in the day, God rest their souls, they're not here anymore. But like Buy Pittsburgh camp, like why do we get behind a Buy Pittsburgh campaign? And I kind of want that because I feel like there should be something out there to remind people there are great solutions, there's great technology, great products being built right here that you can use.
Absolutely.
So,
other cities are doing that.
Yeah.
Austin for sure does
Are
that.
they really? Okay.
100%. You walk into Austin's airport and they have numerous, at least one large place that basically is all of the, local things in Boston. We were in Providence earlier this week at a conference and they had a whole shop and it was just dedicated to, buy Providence items.
Okay.
well, and even so, when we were in Austin a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you noticed it, Jules, but there was a lot of folks had, products out there, store owners, and it had made in Austin.
Yeah.
They had tags everywhere.
Yes.
They took pride
Yes.
in American-made products made locally. And to your original question, personally, I think more folks around Pittsburgh and Western PA should be doing that.
So my idea back in the day was me
Let's hear it.
really dating myself.
Let's go.
Remember the old Intel Inside thing?
Yeah,
we would
yeah.
have. This is like 1998, right?
Yeah.
PGH Inside, right? With a little hoop thing going on to it. So whatever you're buying, it says there's some Pittsburgh inside there. Even if it's a virtual product, it's on the website saying you're buying that. But anyhow, I'm just saying, I just want to see you guys sell as much stuff as possible because obviously you're onto something pretty amazing. And it's something that just is so beneficial to the environment and just us being human beings and not just littering and destroying everything in front of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was just saying, to that point, I was at my mom's house over in Oakdale a couple months ago, and I was walking through the backwoods, and I found a sand pail, a plastic sand pail that I played with as literally a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And it was back there, and it was still there.
Oh, yeah.
And fully intact.
Fully
it had
intact.
worms. It was like halfway buried. But that just drove home. I mean, that was...
Yeah, it doesn't go
I don't
away.
want to date myself, but that was several decades ago. And that's,
too?
yeah, in that, well, several. And, and that plastic pail is still there. I mean, completely intact.
It goes to show you, right?
Plastic
It just
takes
it doesn't
hundreds
go
and
away.
thousands of years to disappear,
Right.
especially... if you're using something one time, it shouldn't be made out of plastic.
Exactly.
If it was made out of one of our biomaterials, it would have been gone.
It would have been gone in about 6 months.
Yeah.
That's what it would take for something to break down.
Yep.
I love
Max.
It. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, are you going to be adding more products to your lineup, or do you pretty much have the gamut of everything that can be done when it comes to single use? Like, where are you guys stand in that regard?
From an assortment perspective, our current assortment really is geared around operators, food service operators that are running a takeout operation.
Okay.
And so we feel very confident with the current assortment. That being said, we have had certain very large customers come to us and say, "Hey, can you guys make this particular product?"
Perfect.
And we'll commit serious volume against it. And that has, that's been a good dialogue that we've been having. But from a just a business perspective, we're really looking at, with every modicum of growth, putting that back into how do we create a better product, more on-time delivery, and better serve the customer, rather than adding more and more products. I just think this is one of the things I learned at the Target Incubator a long time ago. It's not really about, if you're increasing your assortment, sometimes that means that things are not going right. I think that's not a good sign. You want to be actually narrowing your assortment.
Yeah,
over
because
time.
those are the things that are really got the margin, that are selling well, that that there's repeated need for.
That's what some of the really good merchandisers taught me a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, it's also with the whole product market fit.
Right.
Right. And so you focus on that. So many entrepreneurs they think they have a good idea and they develop it, but they don't have an end market to it. So
I see that so often, and all I want to do is be like, please stop right now.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, if there's not an addressable market right now, a market's not going to be created because you built something.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes.
It's like, I know it's devastating, but
I know.
Yeah, and that's something. Obviously, I see this market. I think how many people, I can only imagine the billions of people a day that are using takeout.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean,
my God.
come on. I mean, that's
literally billions of people.
Literally
daily.
billions of people,
Literally.
and how it ain't going away. So people are
sure.
always going to need the product that you have.
Exactly.
Which is just, it goes to show you this is such an essential part of our lives in so many ways.
Absolutely.
Unless we all start eating with our hands, but I don't think that's happening.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
No.
We'll at least need some cutlery, which we can also provide.
Exactly. It's like, wait a second, this is kind of weird. So it's really exciting to see you in this position then.
Thank you very much,
So the big thing is how do you keep up? Are there new technologies that you're looking at that allow you to use different types of materials and things like that? So that's when the scientist in you starts coming out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You're like, Joe, I'm putting on the lab coat today. I'm not coming out for a couple of days.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, my background is in chemistry, which it was the genesis of this whole thing. There are we absolutely stay on top of all of the latest and newest technologies from a material perspective. People who are processing things in a different way. But that's also one of the really unique and interesting things that I love about Pittsburgh, because there's so much. I really view Pittsburgh as the epicenter of AI and robotics.
100%.
A lot of other cities and locations, they definitely tout themselves as being the epicenter of AI and robotics, and they're certainly good at it. But I think Pittsburgh really has a unique hold on it because of what's going on at CMU, Pitt, and the entire ecosystem around it, the Pittsburgh Robotics Network, in addition to what Pittsburgh Technology Council, what we're doing here.
100%, yeah.
So you get a unique lens into what's coming, and you can get some really smart people to look at processes and how things are being done. And I think it is a real competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And to your earlier question about how do you outmaneuver or outsmart?
Yeah.
It's through looking at things in a different way. So those big, Goliath type companies, it's like moving a, huge animal back and forth, and it can only turn around if you've got something buzzing, if you've got a fly buzzing in the back, it takes 10 minutes to move that whole huge Goliath back. But, we turn around in
quick,
less
right?
than a second.
Okay.
We turn around in less than a second, identify if that fly is something that we need to be worried about or not, if that's something that could be an advantage to us or not, and then act accordingly. And that is why I love the size that we are and where we're growing, because I think we are actually way better positioned for the future.
Yeah, I mean, you keep it nimble, obviously, and that's an
Yes.
advantage. And obviously, with having all these facilities to manufacture, you can get big orders out when you need to get them done. So you can really, you got some real competitive advantage out there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and plus, we stay focused.
Yes.
We stay focused on our three pillars. It's American manufacturing, certified compostable products, and our ownership structure. Fortunately, Juliana and I own the business fully. We don't have any outside investors.
Oh, you said the magic words, man.
So we're in control of our own destiny. But we find our bigger competitors in the greedy side of making more money or profit. We have one big one that's a big Chinese importer. They have gotten into, they were acquired by a very large plastics company.
Yep.
So how ironic is that?
They're trying to diversify.
Yeah,
Exactly.
trying to diversify. Or they're getting into the reusable plastic containers Well, all the studies that we've seen, those plastic containers get thrown away just as much. So, they're kind of going down the greedy side. We've stuck to our 3 pillars, and we're not wavering.
Exactly. The other thing, too, is exactly. We've stuck to those 3 pillars, which is compostable, which I genuinely, truly believe is the most sustainable way to go.
Yeah.
If we can integrate more composting, which is a work in progress, I will admit, not everybody has access to composting, but we're moving in that direction. If we can shift to a single stream composting model and use compostable materials, that is how nature has been getting rid of waste for billions of years.
Turns it into great dirt. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that. So
Billions
you
of
can
years.
grow more stuff.
Billions.
I remember there was like this trend for a while where people were carrying around like their own like metal straws and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'm not a straw dude to begin with. I don't need a straw. I'm sorry. I drink whatever. I can't imagine people like going to carry around like a set of cutlery like on a ring. Can you imagine that?
Some people are trying to do that, and it's just not. It's just not realistic.
You can't put that in your pocket, man.
Well, also imagine like you eating tuna, and then you like put that in your pocket. Even if you wash it off, it still smells like tuna. And you're carrying around old tuna all day long.
Maybe eat your spaghetti with your tuna smelling food.
Yeah, like how does that work? I mean, that's just gross.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Tuna spaghetti. I mean, hey, each their own.
I can't imagine that becoming a trend. I'm trying to think of what would be a threat to what you're doing out there, and it'd be like, what, people are going to embrace plastic more? Like,
well, I mean, everybody's, plastic. The whole industry is just growing. You know, plastic is growing. The population is increasing. Like, there's just an increasing use for this. But, one of the reasons why I have never ideologically ever believed in the reusables model, because I've looked at the numbers. I've looked at how much water consumption is needed. I've looked at how much labor is needed, electricity, but also you're using plastic. Yes, some people have, a metal version, but they all utilize plastic components. Terravive is about no plastic. No more polyethylene-based plastic. That's what our whole mission is.
My dad would cry if he heard you say that.
but
I would tell him not to cry, but he would.
But polyethylene,
he was probably doing bigger products.
He was doing bigger products, but also like polyethylene-based plastics is the foundational building blocks for how we are here today. We needed polyethylene-based plastics to get to polylactic acid, to get to polyhydroxybutyrate, to get to PHB. That was a fundamental step, and we actually use a lot of the same equipment. So a lot of those people who are very skilled in polyethylene.
Interesting. So he uses the same equipment
injection
and skill set. Injection. Yeah, you're just putting a different material that you're injecting into
That's it.
Interesting.
So you're just, rather than using, petroleum-based polyethylene, you're just using a slightly different resin that's produced in a different way.
Exactly.
It has a different chemical composition.
Very cool. I don't know. I'm
So your dad shouldn't cry.
No, he's not. I like to be dramatic just because, I'm all about the ratings here.
Let's bring him in here.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all this activity going on, I mean, you guys in a hiring mode at all? Like,
yes.
Yeah. How big is the Terravive staff?
Yep. So across the entire, I'll give you a little secret sauce.
Okay, I like this.
I'll give you a little secret sauce.
Yeah.
So one of our secret sauces has been to maintain 100% control of the business.
I like that.
And ownership of the
business.
Yes,
100%. Okay.
And that has enabled us to make decisions that are best for our customers.
Okay.
And best for our employees. So what we've done is, not take on outside investment, fund it through cash flow and bootstrap it. But then we've also utilized, contract manufacturing. We've also utilized a lot of, contracting. We've also, contracted out a lot of hires. And so, throughout the U.S., between the manufacturing locations, warehousing, it's over 1,000 jobs, contracted jobs that we're supporting.
Wow.
1,000 American jobs.
That's so awesome.
Yes. So
Very cool.
It's a huge chunk. And each of those manufacturing jobs has a significant downstream positive impact on the economy. These are people who are, buying a house. They're going to the grocery store. They're going to movies.
Getting takeout.
Getting takeout. Exactly. Exactly. Versus, some other jobs where, it has, it's just one person who might be moving a lever or something like that. Versus there's a lot of jobs being created here and a big impact on the community.
Cool. Yeah.
So we are absolutely hiring. Would you like to add anything to this?
Yes, I like to add two things to that. So on the hiring side, we are hiring some sales folks on the commercial, non-commercial side. So think of distribution, think of universities, and then also some logistics folks, logistics managers. So we're definitely staffing up there. But on the multiplier effect that Juliana just mentioned, I took issue one time a couple weeks ago with a reporter from Bloomberg. and they had a shop owner up there talking about how bad the tariffs are and how it was hurting their business. They employed 2 people, and they were importing. Their entire store came from China and Asia. So their economic impact is 2 people. And I told the reporter, I said, if Terravive manufactures products, we employ people, then all the downstream effects to the barber, to the laundromat, to the parts, tolling companies. So we have a massively larger impact on the economy than someone that's just a shop owner importing everything from China.
Makes sense.
And
yeah.
so he and I went back and forth
Okay.
and he interviewed us, and
Wow.
that interview may be coming out, but I took issue because all the press was about how bad these mom and pops were.
Right.
Whereas we're trying to, create thousands of jobs.
Well,
And
and you're taking a much different tack than a lot of companies do, because it is easy to say, I got the easy access to these very inexpensive things. I can bring them in and sell them at a profit, make money, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
But now you're dependent on someone else's platform, for lack of a better term, right? You're dependent on China.
Yep.
Something like this happens, that's what happens in business. And one thing I've learned from some entrepreneurs over the past, which is what you're exactly doing right now, is the fact that you have full control because you're keeping this within the country, right? To domestic is a lot easier to keep
Yes.
track of than what's going to happen abroad. So
Exactly.
I think that was a really smart move up front. I mean, to be able to say that we're not going to be reliant
And it's
on
interesting
things outside the country. So
Thank you very much. And it's interesting you mentioned that too, because when we first did it, it wasn't even from a business perspective. When we first made that decision to produce everything in the United States, it was actually a poor business decision. It was it was before COVID. Like it was much cheaper to bring product in.
I guess it'd be easier just to start out because you could I have access to these things.
And it was less expensive because China, Vietnam, and others we've known are dumping product into the United States, at a significant loss to put our industrial base, out of work. So at the time, it was actually a very poor decision, but we did it anyway because Joe and I like to say that we are the most patriotic disposables company out there.
Good Lord. I love it.
I would very much challenge anybody who wants to say that they are more patriotic than Terravive. So we really did it because we thought that it was the best thing for the country. It's the best thing for our industrial base, and it's something that's in line with our mission and our values.
That's awesome, man. I love it.
Also very patriotic.
Yeah.
It's in line with the Made in USA piece.
Would
you agree or disagree?
Fully agree. We have red, white, and blue everywhere.
Yes,
I was going to
yes,
say.
yes.
But also, when you look at the sustainability side, for the purist out there, they realize how much pollution is created when you ship products across 7,000
It's often not accounted for in
exactly.
something.
And
Yes.
so there's the pollution from the unregulated factories overseas to the pollution shipping 7,000 miles. So is it really worth the pollution footprint for a hot cup, one hot cup, or a fork to ship it all that distance? And by the way, that plastic fork will be here for your great-great-great-grandchild. So is that, so the purists out there are really starting to look at the pollution footprint of importing, and we've
Doesn't
stuck
make
to our
sense.
guns, since 2015.
It's an exciting story. At the Tech Council, we're huge fans of what you're doing, just on many levels. But as I get to talk to you more about this, your passion and enthusiasm for this, to me, it's like, I don't know, keep going.
Thank you very much. It just makes sense. We believe in it, and it's not just us.
100%. No, I can see it.
Yeah,
This
we
isn't
believe in
your
it.
course here.
Yeah.
This isn't just something you're trying to build and flip, which people do, and that's fine.
That is
but
100% not what's going on here.
Yeah, you're building something because you see an opportunity to do something that's very impactful across
Meaningful.
many different levels here, which I think is just awesome. And I'm so happy you're in Pittsburgh
Thank you.
doing this.
Thank you very much.
Before I wrap things up, though, I
Yes,
always have to ask people, I love being able to tap into our members who are building great stuff to give us a little advice. I mean, I think anyone just listening to this will have picked up some key advice from you about building business, but any kind of something key that you really learned along the way building this thing that you think could be helpful to others that are also trying to build something kind of cool and unique?
Yes.
Okay.
I have many, and I
Okay.
have scars on my
many.
back.
Okay, well,
We'll give you the top one.
give me the top one.
give you the
Okay.
top one.
And we can have you stop by for 2, 3, and 4 at some point because I'm open to getting as much information as possible. So, yes, give us the number one then, Juliana.
Okay, I would say for someone who's first starting out, so keep in mind when I started the business, I was in college, knew nothing about business. Knew a lot about chemistry, knew a lot about biomaterials, but knew nothing about business. My family are doctors, really did not come from a business background at all.
Okay.
What I would say, and this is something that Joe helped to make it clear to me, is that when you're first starting out, you want to build a strong business first. You don't want to build a cool product because you think it's cool. You want to build a strong business first. And here's the way to do that. So everybody says that, but then they're like, well, it takes money to produce this stuff.
Okay.
So something that I found was really successful was going to a couple different accelerator programs.
100%.
So
Okay.
one of the ones that I went to was the Target Incubator in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They gave non-dilutive funding, as well as, introduced us to the entire C-suite at Target, taught me how to do business in retail, taught me how to negotiate, taught me
Crazy
how
cool.
Target thinks
Wow.
about these things. In addition to a lot of great contact connections there, and then also attended the Lighthouse Labs Accelerator in Virginia, which additionally opened up a ton of doors, more non-dilutive funding, and really helped me get on my feet, which is also where I met Joe.
Okay.
So it was also an excellent program. And I know Innovation Works also has a great accelerator program as well here in Pittsburgh. And I know I have a lot of friends who have been through that as well.
Couldn't agree more. If you can look for an accelerator program, no matter where you are, that is a great way to validate and
Yes.
sharpen your business plan.
I'm a big fan.
Without a doubt, because they wrap some support around you to kind of get you over some of those major early hurdles.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. What would you say?
Yeah, now I would say my top two would be ensure you have product market fit. We already taled about that.
Yep.
But so many people, so many entrepreneurs
Why do
don't.
people forget about that? Seriously, because that is the top thing you're probably taught.
well,
and then
because
it goes right out the window when
because
someone thinks they have a
people
great
think it's cool,
idea.
It's a cool idea. And
Okay, yeah.
For some people, hey, I'm smarter than you.
Oh,
So
well, there's
and
that as well, too. It's like, yeah, you're so smart, so smart.
Yeah. So it gets down to basics. It's product market fit, and then I would say also, depending what program you're in, your default, if you're an early entrepreneur, your default shouldn't be to take the first angel investment that comes along.
Yep.
Or
That's
the first
tricky because
investment.
you're seeing some dollars in front of you, and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
it's validating your idea.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're excited.
Exactly.
Right.
And a lot of folks see, well, hey, I'm going to get $50,000, $100,000. Well,
And it's only half my company.
but the bite, yeah, exactly. But the bite of the apple, the return that they get is horribly bad, right? And so if you can extend that out, as Juliana mentioned, bootstrap it as long as you can, get some early customers, get some cash rolling, and go that way, and then every day that goes on, your valuation increases.
So it's
So
not
then
it's
when
not a
you
great
do it-
idea to get some money to help prove my marketing plan out that it's going to work. And
No. Well, marketing is required and important.
Yeah. Well, and that's in the early days. Whenever I first met Juliana, there was a lot of advisors giving her, in my mind, very bad advice.
And you called him out on it.
And I called her
Right.
out. I made several enemies because I was
Several.
going against. I was like, no. I was like, he or she is trying to take advantage of you.
Interesting.
And so I called them out early on. I was like, she has a great idea. Don't take advantage of her. And people would get pissed at me. I'm sorry, but
That's all right.
PG-13 here.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. So
PG-13
So people will get mad. I'm like, no. I was like, that's, she has a great idea. If you want to put $50,000 in, don't take 20% of the company,
Exactly.
10%, even 1% of the company.
That will kill that'll
Yeah, kill her. And then all of a sudden, fortunately, had she done that, that was 2019. COVID hit. The market's completely switched around for Terravive, and Terravive wouldn't exist anymore, or Juliana would be so diluted that she wouldn't be sitting here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So-
She'd have 5% of the company.
So you asked before, how Joe, got involved and how this whole thing
Yeah.
happened. So when all of this was going down, I said to Joe, okay, Joe, you're telling all these people that this isn't a good idea. Fine. Well, what do you think would be a better idea? And he said, well, why don't I join you? And I said, well, you better get ready to get in the trenches because it's about to get muddy in here. And he said, okay. And so he went all in. And that is what differentiated him from everybody else who I interacted with. Everybody else just wanted to give me a little bit of cash, but they wanted some equity, and they weren't really willing to really roll up their sleeves and get dirty and get into it.
Yeah.
And that is what Joe did, and he's opened up so many doors. And it's just been, honestly, an unbreakable team since
Cool
we met
story,
in
man.
2019.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
And
2019.
we've been, with the
Amazing.
David and Goliath, one person has been
Exactly. Oh, that's so cool.
Someone's gathering rocks.
Someone's
And another one's getting the sling.
You're getting ready to
exactly,
sling
getting the
'em out.
sling ready.
Yeah.
And that is how it's been for 6 years.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. You built some serious momentum. Glad you're doing it here in Pittsburgh. Gave us some great advice, I think, to anyone listening out there. If you're thinking about building a company, you guys have thought this through. And
Thank you.
amazing stuff. So glad you're here.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jonathan. Thank you for having us.
No, what an absolute pleasure. I have learned so much today. The type of stuff that's making Pittsburgh proud, simple as that. So we'll leave it on that note. And in case you forgot, oh my goodness, yeah, this is still Jonathan Kirsting. I'm still with Pittsburgh Tech Council and Terravive Radio. Just loving having conversations like this. It doesn't get any better as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to see you on the next one.